Hello guys! Today, we're going to talk about something pretty cool cameras. We will be exploring the two main types of it, the analog camera and the digital camera. We will also take a close look at all different parts and function, both on the front and back of these cameras. Whether you are a photography pro or just getting started, this video will help you to understand how these devices work. So let's jump right in and learn together. Let's discuss the front of the analog camera. Let's start with the shutter speed ISO or the film speed set ring. This ring allows you to set a desired shutter speed and film speed settings for your camera. Next is the shutter release button. The shutter release button is used to take photo. Pressing it opens the camera shutter, exposing the film to light. Film advance lever. After taking a photo, you can use this lever to advance the film to the next frame, readying the camera for the next shot. Frame counter. The frame counter keeps track of how many exposure we've made on the roll of film, helping you know when you reach the end of the roll. Next is the neck strap eyelets. These are attachment points for connecting a neck strap to carry the cameras around your neck or shoulder. Hand grip. The hand grip provides a secure and comfortable hold on the camera while shooting. Self-timer lever. This lever activates the camera's self-timer function, allowing you to delay the shutter release for a few seconds after pressing the button. Lens release button. This button is used to detach the camera lens from the camera body for lens changes. Hot shoe contact or the accessory shoe. This is a mounting point on the camera's top where you can attach external accessories like flash units or external light meters. Film rewind crank. When you have finished shooting a roll of film, you use the rewind crank to rewind the exposed film back into the film canister. Next is the film rewind knob. This knob is turned when rewinding the film and is part of the film rewinding process. Film speed window. It displays the film speed setting currently in use, helping you to keep track of your film's sensitivity. Aperture ring. The aperture ring on the camera lens allows you to adjust the lens aperture size, controlling the amount of light entering the camera. Distance scale. This scale on the lens indicates the distance between the camera and the subject, useful for manual focusing. Focusing ring. The focusing ring lets you manually adjust the focus of the lens for precise focusing control. Next is the depth of field preview lever. When activated, this lever stops down the lens aperture to give you a preview of the depth of field in your shot. Multiple exposure level. This lever allows you to take multiple exposures on a single frame of film, creating a layered image. Exposure measurement button. This button may activate the camera's light meter to measure the light in the scene for proper exposure setting. So these part are characteristics of a traditional analog film or the cameras, and the specific features and function may vary depending on the camera's model and type. So we're done on the front of our analog camera. Let's now proceed to the back of the analog camera. Let's start with the viewfinder eyepiece, an easy-to-use viewing and focusing aid which allows near and far-sighted photographers to view the finder image accurately without wearing eyeglasses. Next is the rewind fork, the prong inside the camera back that pokes inside the film cassettes to rewind the film. Film cartridge chamber, a cartridge chamber at the rear part of camera into which a film cartridge is to be loaded. Next is the battery chamber lid. It is a battery chamber cover. Tripod socket. It is used to screw the tripod socket. Film guide rails. Each of the flat metal rails on both sides of the focal plane shutter. The taut film travels along them. Next is the film sprocket. The function in photography is to hook onto your camera's winder when you load the film. The little teeth of a film camera hook into this hose and transport the film to the next frame. The camera back, A part of SLR which covers the back part of 35 mm SLR camera body. Next is the film pressure plate. The pressure plate holds the film in place in between the inner rails and presses it down so that it is relatively flat. And last one is the film rewind button. A rewind release button disengages the gears on the take-up spool and the winding sprockets. Once depressed, the film can be rewound into the cassettes using the film rewind knob. A second purpose for the rewind release button is a photographer wishes to rewind their film before completing the roll. We're done on the analog camera. Let's now proceed to the front of the digital camera. Let's start in built-in flash. This is a small, built-in flash unit that provides additional light for taking photos in low light condition. Next is the MY button. This button is often used to switch between manual and automatic shooting modes, allowing you to control settings like aperture and shutter speed manually or let the camera do it automatically. Next is the D button. The directional button is used for navigating through menu options and making selections on the camera screen. Infrared receiver. This is a sensor that receives signals from an infrared remote control, allowing you to trigger the camera remotely. Next is the lens mounting mark. This mark indicates the correct alignment when attaching a lens to the camera body. It helps ensure that the lens is properly connected. Next is stereo microphone. This is a microphone that captures audio, providing a better sound quality when recording videos. Next is the lens release button. Pressing this button allows you to detach a lens from the camera body. Next is the HDMI connector cover. This cover protects the HDMI port, which can be used to connect the camera to a high-definition television or monitor for viewing image and window or videos. Next is the accessory terminal. This terminal is used for connecting various accessories such as remote triggers or external flash units to the camera. AF mode button. The autofocus mode button lets you select different autofocus modes, such as single point AF or continuous AF, depending on your shooting preferences. Next is the focus mode selector. These allow you to choose between different focus modes, like single shot autofocus or continuous autofocus. Next is meter coupling lever. This lever is part of the camera's metering system, which measures light to help determine the correct exposure settings. Next is the mirror. The mirror is the key components of DSLR cameras. It reflects the image from the camera's lens up to the viewfinder for composing shots and then flips up to allow the image sensor to capture the photo when you take a shot. Next is the USB connector. This port is used for connecting the camera to a computer or other devices for transferring photos and videos. Connector for external microphone. Some cameras have a dedicated port for connecting an external microphone, which can greatly improve audio quality during video recording. Next is the HDMI connector. This is the actual HDMI port where you can plug in an HDMI cable for connecting the camera to a TV or monitor. Next is accessory terminal. This is another terminal for connecting various camera accessories like remote controls or external flash units. Headphone connector. Some advanced cameras have a headphone jack that allows you to monitor audio while recording video to ensure the sound quality is satisfactory. So these are the main components you'll find on the front of a digital camera, and they play essential roles in capturing photos and videos with the different settings and functionalities. We're done in the front. Let's now proceed to the back of the digital camera. Let's start by the viewfinder eyepiece. This is where you look through to compose your shot. It provides an optical view of the scene you're photographing. Next is the rubber eye cup. The eye cup surrounds the viewfinder eyepiece and helps to block out ambient light, improving your view and comfort when using the viewfinder. Next is the delete button. Pressing these buttons allow you to delete selected image or files from your memory card. Playback button. It lets you review and view the photos and videos you've taken on the camera's LCD screen. Tilting monitor. The monitor is a screen that displays a live view of your subjects or the image you've taken. Some cameras having tilting monitors that can be adjusted to different angles for easier viewing. Next is the menu button. This button opens the camera menu systems where you can access various settings and options to customize your camera's function. WB button. This is the white balance button, which lets you to adjust the color temperature settings to match the lighting condition for accurate color representation. Next is metering option button. This button allows you to change the camera's metering mode, which determines how the camera measures and sets exposure. Next is the qual button. The quality button lets you adjust the image quality settings, such as resolution and compression level. Diopter adjustment control. This control lets you adjust the focus of the viewfinder to match your eyesight, providing a clearer view. Exposure focus lock. This button allows you to lock exposure on focus settings so that they remain constant while you recompose your shot. Speaker. The speaker produces sound for playback or videos or audio notes on your camera. Command dial. The command dial is used to quickly adjust settings like aperture, shutter speed, or exposure compensation. Next is focus selector lock. This lock prevents accidental changes to the focus point or mode. LV button. The live view button activates the camera's live view mode, which displays a real-time image on the LCD screen. Multi-selector. The multi-selector is a navigation control for moving through menus, selecting focus points, and making various on-screen selections. Memory card slot cover. This cover protects the camera memory card slot where you insert camera's storage media. OK button. The OK button is often used to confirm menu selections or settings. Infrared receiver. This receives signals from a remote control, allowing you to trigger the camera remotely. Next is the focus selector lock, or the second mention. This lock is often present on more advanced cameras and prevents unintentional changes to focus settings. Next is the memory card access lamp. This light indicates when the camera is reading or writing data to a memory card. Info button. Pressing this button typically displays shooting information on the LCD screen, such as exposure settings and battery status. So these are common features found on many digital cameras, but the specific functions and location may vary depending on the camera model and brands. I hope you learned something and enjoy learning.